Hello and welcome to yet another session with D2, powered by digital and driven by data, a campaign by Medicine Man in partnership with Dochere to bring you the thought leaders from the pharma industry to share their experiences. And today we have Samir Srivastav, Kaustubh Kanade, and Salil Kalyanpur as panel members. So let me quickly introduce our panel members before we get into the discussions. Samir comes with over 20 years of experience, and he has been with Zydus and Cipla before his current role at Alchem Laboratories. Kaustubh Kanade has worked with Sanofi, Strides, Abbott, and currently with B. Braun. So he has experience not just in pharma, but in medical devices as well, in India, Asia Pacific, Russia, and Africa. And therefore, we can expect a variety of ideas and insights to come in from these two gentlemen. And thanks to Salil, who has been working behind the scenes in shaping D2 into a thought leadership forum for the benefit of Indian pharma professionals. So hello and welcome to yet another session with Medicine Man on D2, which is a joint initiative to bring pharma thought leaders to share their perspectives on digital adoption in the Indian pharma industry. So let me quickly share the poll with you, very interesting poll, and we'll take it further from there. So this is the poll that we shared about a week ago. So how do we measure the success for digital marketing? So 21% said field force intervention is easy to measure, and a good 16% said measuring digital is vague. I think this is actually a small percentage, but in reality could be much larger. Yeah, this is a true statement. I would say easier to measure digital because people have their own understanding of digital, and then some people said that almost 17% said that, you can have the same metrics for both offline and online marketing. So Samir, the first question is to you. How is digital adoption improving in pharma post 2020? What are some interesting trends that you see? Is ROI being better defined and measured today than it was last year? It'll be great if you can share some examples from your vast experience.
So thank you, Anup and Salil, for bringing me on this esteemed panel. 2 points I want to say before I get into this important point, because digital adoption, as you always, seen that it has been improving. But when I look at from the industry point of view, there are two versions which I see. One is adoption because there is a need, which is still in a smaller set of people. The second is the peer pressure, or the bosses want to do something and therefore we are doing it. Now, what is important for the audience to understand is why are they doing it? And then this question will come that whether adoption is improving or not. Because when I'm doing to do a checkbox, just to make a tick, versus there is a real need for me to do that. If the brand or the division does not require a digital, let's not attempt it. So this is one of the things which is very, very important. And I have seen, and maybe this is, previous to this current organization, I was in Cipla and now in Alchem. But I have seen before 2017, I'm talking about, there was a thing, but it is like, it's a very nice word to have in the brand plan or a marketing plan. So that is something which is very important. Having said that, I guess it is very, very important for us today, for us to look at the adoption rate, how it is improving or not. I guess it is improving much faster, and thanks to COVID. I guess COVID has given us those kind of stuff where the improvement is happening with a much faster pace, and not only by the pharma marketeers, but also because the doctors or the SCPs and the patients both are aligned or hooked towards the to the digital sphere. Now, we all know that everybody is having a set which is always in their hand is our mobiles, right? And that's where everything starts. So it has to improve. Now, the issue is not whether it's improving or not. At what pace are we as a pharma marketeers or the team are we working towards ensuring that we match up to the speed of the HCPs and the patients? So that's the major important point. Trends, if you look at it, I think in marketing, whatever little experience I have, because when we learn from people like you, we adopt those things and we come to know, because I know about my part, what we have done. But when we learn from others, we also, reflect back, was that useful for me or not? So if you look at it as a marketeer, what is the one improvement I have seen is that they are able to identify the gaps. Why in current scenario, why the digital is required and where exactly. Now, I need not to spray and pray that digital, I will send a 15,000 mailers and then Facebook Live and LinkedIn post, Instagram chat, whatever. I don't think so. That is the current. So there is a larger proportion. We will still continue to do it. But there is a significant jump which is happening. Earlier, maybe it was 2%, 5%, but today 15 to 20% people understand the real need of the digital world, which for me is a very, very important thing. And this is happening because the more of data they are able to, do that analytics. The data which is coming out of those initial works, they are able to put it on a filter and applying it to take it to the next level. And this is from the digital part, but we as a leader also, we have seen that there has been pharma, if you look at it, in white hairs is okay, but then if you look at, there are many senior leaders are there who still doesn't believe pharma digital, no. My boy has to go, you give him visual aid, whether it's an iPad, remains a visual aid. It is not an iPad. It remains a visual aid. Though static, he has to move. But the leaders are changing today. I guess this is a very important point in the entire pharma industry today. If you look at it, there are leaders who have never seen digital as an important tool. They are realizing it, that it will be done. And then what happens when they start believing, the sales force also started realizing that it should be happening. And it's a very important change. May not be maybe very qualitative to say that, but yes, it is an important directional move as an industry. We are getting that. So these are the things which is definitely helping us to improve the digital adoption. Their second part was on the ROI part. Now, ROI, as far as I understand, and I believe that the one thing which I may not agree, that offline and online has to be same, because the tools are different, customer segment is different, success rates are different, and therefore it cannot be same. This is my belief, and I'm ready to hear more about that. But yes, as if you look at the digital adoption, cannot be defined in terms of immediate goals, that my market share will increase or my revenue will increase. But yes, as a leader, I mean, that only we as a business heads or the marketing heads can take that decision. Is it moving towards in the direction which will help me to give my revenue, or give me that kind of noise in the market, or the doctors started recognizing us with that kind of initiatives. So therefore, it is not only that matrix, but post event, what kind of research you employ to check whether is the needle moving or not. I guess that becomes very, very important, and therefore the matrices has to be completely different than from the offline. But yes, I believe that in terms of, if you look at the data point, I have done 2 events, and I just wanted to spend a minute on both of them. One was a Facebook event. Now, Facebook Live closed group, 7,000 out of, and let's say 8 to 9,000 of the audience. We had around 5,500 of that specialty part of that group. Not a single person other than me and my admin team was part of that group. Highly content oriented. What we started analyzing is how many doctors are coming back, not how many downloaded or opened for a minute. So we have defined anybody who spent more than 7, 8, 10 minutes is the success. If that number is improving, is my success. So those were the metrics we used, and we saw that those group of practitioners, when that kind of event was happening, we had around, numbers maybe touch, it was 2,700, 2,800 coming. But the good people who have been there and consistent was almost 800 to 900, by far better than any physical meetings. So that's one part. And their matrices were totally different. And that's how what we were doing also. There was a follow-up call used to happen by my team members. How was event? Just to quickly gauge. So there are field involved. So it was not that without the help of field, we were doing pre or the post. The second event, which we are currently doing in my current organization, it is, we have an app. On that, everything is loaded. So the rep or the manager has to do those digital dissemination of the data, information, and everything else through that app. Now, the benefit here is that I know who is working and who is not. Where is my ability to put a governance mechanism? And suddenly I see my scale, which was the first 3 months, was much lower. Once we started getting the data, putting into perspective, having brought that as a part of our review structure, we saw there is a jump on everything happening, which has helped us in activities as well as all those digital things. So ROI is a very important word. These are pharma leaders we cannot afford to miss. But for everything, there has to be a different level of ROI matrix to be defined. So that's from my side, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for that very interesting observations that you have made, and based on your practical experience. It's good to hear that pharma leaders are moving beyond gray hair and gray matter of what digital, and that it is essential. And you rightly pointed out that what is the pace of our digital adoption, because doctors are already there, patients are even more there probably, and doctors are finding it hard to keep pace with the patients. And I think this is where the pharma's role comes in by way of concierge services or any such services where they don't have to repeat the information to every single patient, given that we have seen through all these sessions that time is one of the biggest resource constraint for doctors, and therefore, digital has a huge role to play to identify which doctor needs what kind of information for his patients, and then give that information. And importantly, you said that that the field force was clued into the program, which was very important. So they are part of it. They don't feel left out, which is very important, because often field force thinks that digital is a replacement for them. It's very important for us to make it clear that it's a supplement and it augments their work, because their work, which happens one visit a month, can quickly forgotten. That is what yesterday we had, Ganesh Siddhabutala talking about the Ebbinghaus curve. Within a week, everything is lost. So you can reinforce that with digital. So very clearly brought out, and good to hear about the experience in your last two organization. I'm sure that this is interesting for Salil to listen to, that that leaders are now going beyond the ticking the box to actually looking at digital from strategic perspective. So Kaustav, that was, I think, a good background for you to talk about. And we've had some 5 sessions so far. So with some of our earliest guests, we had spoken about the need for pharma to move to customer centricity. Just as Samir was sharing that the metrics have to be different, because here you have to measure more of a customer engagement, as you rightly said, by way of their coming back to the program. Are they engaged? Are they having a great experience? So Kaustav, do you think that the disparity in measuring the success for digital is because we still measure product success, or that is sales, rather than customer success, which is engagement, experience, and loyalty?
Hey, thanks a lot, Anup. So first of all, I think thank you so much to you and to Salil and to Preeta and the team for having given this opportunity to actually be on this platform. And love your point, Samir. I think some very, very pertinent ones out there. I loved across the quote which was on the poll, actually, Anup, which said, 7 blind men and an elephant. And I think we all know that we all know that little video, it's out there, and you can see how each of them is trying to figure out which part of that elephant. And I see somewhere the pharma industry's behavior with digital is somewhere around as the same point. I think I would call it as suspiciously enthusiastic, if I may use the word. I think there is a lot of energy, But yes, essentially, so everyone is very, very gung-ho about investing into social media. But at the same time, I think unconvinced of whether the execution will really happen well, or at the same time, will there be really some kind of an ROI kind of a difference? So from that, you can, so that's how I love that example. To your question on sales, I think, yes, a lot of organizations are still focusing on sales, unfortunately. And marketers are being asked whether any activity will add to the top line or the bottom line across for it. But I think it's very, very clear also now for organizations that just because somebody clicked on your mail or somebody perused your content does not mean that they are going to be prescribing or advocating across something. I think, honestly, over the years across by working across here and in various other countries, I've realized that honestly, engagement is a very, very large word out there. It's a word with a lot of connotation. I would probably say that, rather than trying to measure engagement, and engagement is only what happens over time, I think one should look at measuring efficacy and impact in terms of customer centricity. And I love those words because efficacy is about, yes, it is about reach, it is about frequency, across it is about views, and those are important parameters for a start. But at the same time, the second about centricity is about impact, very, very clearly. Because unless and until impact is there, there will not be any change in long-term belief and behavior across. And engagement can only happen, only when there is engagement can there be a change in belief and behavior. That is what we as marketers are taught. So for me, it has always been, rather than doing across a campaign on digital, how can we personalize a customer journey? I think we tend to look at doctors as some foreign species with their own attitudes, not realizing that I think everybody peruses or everybody consumes content the same way as all of us do, and doctors are no different across. All of us have our own personalized customer journeys across. We have been a customer to someone, and we are marketers to someone, which is how our journeys have been tapped by someone. And we have to, unless we create personalized customer journeys for people, I think there will be no change. Now, how to create a personalized customer journey? You create it, like Sami rightly said, through a lot of feedback across. I think it is time to honestly, so after the webinar or after across any Zoom kind of a meeting across that happens, I think we have to first stop all the naive metrics. For example, how many people registered, how many people logged in, because that is absolutely inconsequential. Just having 500 people on a call is not going to make it a successful event. Absolutely. But perhaps I think what I have come to realize is that when you get into more qualitative feedback rather than quantitative, for example, did this webinar give you a better understanding of your patient's journey with the disorder or the disease? As a qualitative answer, did it make your treatment decision making more simpler? Are the categories being discussed or the therapies being spoken of finding relevance in your respective practice? Is there any other solution that you are seeking? Now, these qualitative answers will make a lot more sense rather than quantitative of 0 to 5. How did you find the webinar? Because in India, we tend to always put a 3 or a 4 because we never like giving across honest opinions. But a qualitative answer will always make a lot of difference. The other thing that you rightly said across, Anup, is about customer centricity. And here I want to talk about a model that I employed across in a couple of organizations. I think everything that we do on digital can be put on a simple scale. That scale is interaction versus interactivity. What does that mean? It means, do you want the doctor's engagement to be overt or covert? And do you want the interaction to be active or passive? For example, a mail, just a mail push, for example, is what? It is low interaction and it's a push model. The doctor, it's low interaction, your effort is lesser, the doctor's effort is nothing. They will go through it when they have the time for it, and there is no need for an interaction. So both are lower. But if you're talking of an interactive e-detailer where you want the doctor to participate along with your rep in answering some questions or clicking on some buttons out there to give some poll, now that is high involvement, that is high interaction, and that is the one which is going to pull, because you're making someone do an action out there. So you have to, so whenever we create this kind of a grid of interaction, I mean, it is interaction high or low with the customer, and interactivity, which means both of them having to invest some time, you will find across an X and a Y axis where you can put in everything that you have worked around digital, and then figure out how much of a quantum of balance you want between both of them. Let me give across a couple of examples out here, and something that we had done for Combiflam in Sanofi, and this is in the public space as well. I think you see that today influencers are a very very big deal out there, and we always tend to look at influencers as people more around the lifestyle world, food and clothing and FMCG, etc., not realizing that the people that we talk as key opinion leaders or thought leaders are who are influencers themselves, and their influences whether in the offline world or the online world. Across the consumers, I think there are influencers as well. And I think one of the questions that we were trying to balance in Combiflam was to ensure across advocacy from the doctor fraternity, as well as, so when you move from RX to OTC, you don't want to disappoint the doctor out there. You want them on your side as well. So we had created a campaign around influencers out there among the doctor fraternity who would also advocate across Combiflam as one of the go-to therapies, saying that yes, do come to me if you have a problem, but you know what, I am there in your house as well. I am there in your closet as well. So when I'm talking across, I'm also influencing some of the other junior doctors. Or if you see a very recent campaign that Sanofi has just launched, which was done about 4 or 5 years back, where there is an influencer doctor who is there's an influencer surgeon who is actually asking a question to 2 residents, saying that and both the residents want to scrub in for the surgery, and the doctor says, yes, but I need only one of you. Whoever can answer this question to me will be allowed to scrub in. And the doctor asks a question about the Sanofi product out there. One of them gets it wrong, the other gets it right across, and then the doctor says, yes, you're allowed to scrub in now. And then the junior doctor says, I know this answer because I go on this portal of Sanofi. Now, this portal, this content and all was created during my time. So I'm very, very proud somewhere of seeing it come to life across. But you can see across how this is a great way to engage a KOL as an influencer, as well as junior doctors out there, to really advocate them to go on a knowledge domain or a knowledge platform that Sanofi has, and to create it like a good kind of acquisition ground. So this is about what I feel, this is real meaning of customer centricity, and how we should be really measuring across efficacy and impact. When both of these things keep on happening repeatedly, engagement will happen. When engagement happens, there will be trust. When trust happens, there will be loyalty. Anup, back to you.
Great, wonderful to hear that. I think, Salil, that you have got enough content from both Samir and Kaustubh to chew on. This morning, I posted a quote on Facebook saying, marketing is like romance. You have to constantly woo the customer. And I think, that is where digital platforms really come in, that, anytime you can engage with the customer, and since the customer is already there, and if the field force joins it as well, and when the field force sees the customer or the doctor using these digital platforms, I'm sure that his faith in the digital tools will increase as well. Salil, your comments.
Yeah, I think it's important for these digital tools to be utilized more, and at least for people to talk about how doctors are actually using these kind of digital tools more, their comfort levels and all of that. This gives a lot of positive reinforcement to our own people, our sales colleagues, because generally we take comments like, oh, my doctor is not really happy with an email, he would much rather prefer to see me in the clinic, and we very easily forget those pre-COVID days when that same rep used to say, doctor doesn't give me a call. It's so tough to meet these guys. Why are you insisting on call average? And then suddenly today face-to-face is the treatment of choice. Now, I'm not saying we should do away with it, right? And I think I've been passionately advocating for the fact that pharma recognizes that it has got a very strong competitive advantage, which is it has a number of people in the market with one-on-one relationships with customers. No other industry has this. And so therefore, what we need to understand is it's not about that medium of talking to the customer, but what we do in the process of the customer engagement. We've started to somewhere down the line look at every opportunity with a doctor to push a brand and talk about a product orientation. I think that's an important part. And I think that kind of also builds into what Kaustubh was talking about, that while we stay, it's very difficult for pharma, therefore, to move away from that product centricity towards thinking about the customer and doing so. To your post of wooing the customer, the pharma guys will say, that's exactly what we're doing. I go and tell me what you want to do. You want to tango in Goa, or you want to go to, Spain or whatever else? That's wooing the customer as well. And that's how I think we screwed up that whole concept of CRM, right? What customer relationship management means. It means different things to different folks. But I think on a more serious note, I think the reflections from the poll are quite revealing in one way. So if you look at the way that people think about the KPI measuring of any of these campaigns, they're still saying that I think it's the face-to-face is definitely the most important. No doubts on that, right? It is definitely important. But then what are you trying to think about when you want to measure the effectiveness of that face-to-face? Is there any way in which you are able to put performance indicators to that? Are you able to think about whether that little call, the 5 minutes that you spend within the clinic, you've got no way of knowing whether that has happened or not? And so mostly when we define return on investment of our field force, there's a lot of correlation and very little causation. Right. So we'll say, okay, because our guys went and met all these doctors, our market share grew, but we don't know that for a fact. And so therefore the ROI KPI thing has always been broken in my, limited understanding. But today you have an opportunity where every single interaction, every single touch point, every single engagement with a customer across a series of channels can all stream back to you to tell you what that customer liked and what he didn't. And so doesn't that give us a more granular way of understanding our engagement levels with those doctors? It helps us to define ROI in a much better way. So I find it quite amusing or quite strange that people say that it's easier to manage phygital and it's vague to manage digital. Because if you were to think of a group of customers, now I'm only thinking that people who said yes to that have probably not really understood phygital well, and they think that physical is a discrete channel and digital is a discrete channel, and so therefore both can be measured. Actually, phygital means giving that one customer both physical and digital experience. Now, if you were actually trying to do that, I think commercial excellence leaders are today struggling to understand attribution. Right? If the same doctor is being met by one rep and 5 different channels are also sending content to him over digital media, why does that guy want to prescribe? Is it because the rep has met him, or is it because of that email that went, or is it because of the video he saw, or is it because of something else that happened? We don't know, and it's tough to attribute, right? So how can it be easier to measure phygital when you're saying that I find digital vague? Digital is not vague. Digital actually gives you step-by-step data point streams that come back to you for analysis. And I think some of our earlier panelists also talked about the kind of clarity that they received on content that was going out, what kind of messaging. They did this marketing mix modeling and so many different ways in which they understand what messages work, what don't work, what kind of channel does the customer prefer to receive, what time of day, what mood of content, the semantics, the frequency, the formats. There's so much improvement that you can do on this. Now, why do we not see this? I think it's got to do with our ways of working, and our ways of working haven't changed. So while we have at our disposal media, data, all of this information that is coming back to us, we are still operating on the premise that content will be refreshed once in 90 days. visual aid has to be the same for 90 days. Then only after the next review meeting, I will give you a fresh visual aid with fresh LBLs or whatever else that happens. Campaigns have to be refreshed. Now, the digital economy doesn't operate like that. The digital economy is not about frequency. It is about real time. It's hygiene, right? Anybody who's talking to you or engaging on a digital asset will not wait for 90 days to see fresh content. He doesn't see it next time, he'll stop coming. And that's because you have so much of choice over there. So I think those are important things that we need to think about. That when we have an external world of customers who have changed their way of working very well, our ways of working, our pharma's ways of working, keeping in sync with those needs of the customers. And I think that is an important point that that most people in pharma or many of the viewers should actually think about.
Great. You brought out a very important point that we really don't know what happens in the 5 minutes that happens between the rep and the doctor, yet we are totally dependent on that. It's almost like a black box, which is lost, which cannot be decoded to know what was, like in an air crash, you get the black box is a critical thing for you to. And digital is like a black box from which you get all the data. So you can keep constantly fine-tuning what data, who like. Now imagine you have a campaign and you give the script to 5,000 reps, and what is the assurance that those 5,000 will be giving that message with integrity, and how much of distortion takes place? There is no way you can measure it. So at least when you are doing the digital, especially with what Salil would like to say as the omni-channel approach, no matter what channel you are taking, the message integrity remains, so the doctor gets the core of your message, and therefore, it is definitely better measurable as compared to any other physical or digital channels. So Samir, the next question is to you. There's a new segment of digital health companies that are coming up, quite a threat to pharma. I don't know if they see it as such, because they are taking the traditional pharma ground in areas such as doctor services, patient engagement, and relationship. How true is this, and is pharma building a moat around it there, or is it open for these digital health companies to move into that space?
So very interesting question, actually. Is the pharma, building a moat around it? So this will require a lot of time to understand, even to us also. But then prior to that, Salil, very important point which you brought on the concept of black box, right? What exactly is happening is not true. And cycle meeting, what we design versus what actually is being communicated to them, there itself is a distortion happen. And from there, what they carry back home, and then after that, in next 90 days, what they deliver, even if it is 20% or 10%, it's like awesome. So that's our evaluation. Ki agar 20% also he is delivering, then we are in the game. So how things we should do it. But yes, it does require a lot of introspection, and I'm happy to share you that in my current organization, we are trying to work out certain methodologies which can augment his physical call. And the second part in that, those messaging, those communication, those kind of stuff is kind of similar, if not the same way or same message, but the intent remains similar, and we are able to communicate that. So that's one of the things which we are doing it. And whatever today you and Kaustubh has talked, I have made some of notes, so I'll just try to work on it and see if we can improve further from here on. Coming to your point on the digital agencies or DTX or whatever we call it, there are multiple terminologies currently going on. I see they are complementing today to the pharma. There has been a lot of gaps in the regular traditional pharma world. And what they are doing is they have identified those gaps and they are complementing the entire stuff. If you look at it, there are multiple examples. One of you from your place, you have Healthify Me, right? That another guy, right? So the way they are operating versus if you look at pharmacy today. Now, there have been aggregator for many things. Today, they are aggregator for not only for medicines. Whatever medicines you want, you get that. Whatever test and want you, they get that. Whatever consultation you want, you get that. Even if you don't have consultation and you put that message to them that I want these medicine, they will, because it's a norm, so they will arrange a consultant from their own side and they'll say, yes, you can take these medicines. So the idea here is, I don't think so that it is taking this space. But what happened? There were a lot of gaps, because this industry was operating in one-to-one direction. It was operating means from company to the doctors. The things were not coming back, and the feedback was not getting incorporated. Where now you see there are a lot of changes happening because of that, and therefore you see that the pharma market here, we are upgrading ourselves. So demand of the virtual healthcare alternative is on the rise for sure, but the customer wants it. End of the day, we always talk about is customer is the king, consumer is the king, doctor is the king. So if they want it, today they are getting it. Earlier, we were not, as a patient, as Kaustubh has talked about, in our journey, we have been on both the sides, right? So we know that we were not getting those kind of information. We are in hardcore, I'm in a hardcore pharma. That does not mean that I'm not using Practos of the world or any other these kind of tools. I am being using, and that is also giving me insight that why people are going and using it. But there is situation, there is an overlap, but largely I'm looking at it that this is entirely expanding the experience of all end users, and that is what we should be looking at it rather than how the things are there. Yes, it is posing a challenge when it comes to you're talking of the customer service or anything else. There is a challenge. But as a sector, if you look at our sector, the pharma sector, we also need to improve. Not much change has happened because few still don't think that this is a threat on a long-term basis. It will not be like that, it will wipe you out. But yes, there will be an overlap on it. But what is Salil has said is like this very, very important point is the kind of resources we have, which is the medical reps, is something which is the advantage which we have, which nobody else can afford to have. I mean, I'm just telling it very upfront because I don't think so the pharmacy or anything I can afford to have a reps on the ground. As of today, it is visible. Tomorrow, I don't know, right? So now, how much efforts actually really we are putting in upskilling them? Now, when we talk about the digital adoption, I remember very clearly that in the previous organization, because this was during 2017 time when we adopted that FB example, which I shared, I go back to the same. It took a lot of time for us to explain to the people that why it will be beneficial to you. Now, the simple question which I had from those senior sales reps and the managers, even the managers of the level of ZBMs and NSM, sir, is that going to help me? Mera parcha badhega kya? I said, I cannot tell you right now, but what I can tell you that you will be able to spend a minute or two more in that doctor chamber. Now, how you utilize is up to you. The prescription will only increase when you are there, right? When you are rest, all our things are only supplementing your call. So don't take them as your competitor or they are here to replace you. But what you need to take them, take the advantage of that. And those who have taken the advantage, those geographies where we have more number of doctors on that platform, maybe a very vague analogy or a correlation, but we had a better results. Because I may not have right now the numbers that how many doctors engaged from West Bengal and what was the share I got it, right? But over a period of time, I have analyzed those who have been more on the digital front have given me. So these are the things like if you have to ensure that pharma maintains its mode or enhances it, I guess there a good amount of time has to spend on the upskilling of our reps because that's the more differentiation. Now, second thing is for the brand managers, and recently we had a brand workshops also, and I was talking to my team, is the insight collections is still not reached to that level. And people need to spend time because the role of a brand manager, and majority of us who have the gray hairs, we always talk about it. It is not about creating those LBLs, giving those inputs, ensuring CME is done on time. But how all these things are put together, fulfilling my larger objective. CME is on what? What was the gap identified from the market? Like what you said just now, is that the CME happened, like Kaustubh was talking, right? The CME, Or for example, how are you taking the qualitative feedback? Is that helping you or not? And that personal interaction will give an edge to us over any digital interaction. And again, I come back to because when he said that, I'm reflecting on that, because after that, even there used to be a window, right? Without click on that window is not closing. So he has to click 2-3 lines and this thing and then closes it. That was not giving us any idea. But those even maybe 10 doctors feedback which used to get where my managers used to go and talk to those doctors, to the speakers and some audiences, was giving me a lot more. So the touch, the human touch is the real advantage. And as a team, we need to invest, and not team, but as an industry, we need to invest more on our people, their capability, both in the sales and in the marketing. But one more point will always comes is the cost of acquisition of a customer or business, because when you talk of moat, Warren Buffett will not allow you to close the talk without, talking about cost optimization or those things. I guess that also we need to look at it internally, that how are we bringing it, what kind of either your terms of marketing inputs or incentivization, or in terms of resourcing or everything else put together, how are we maintain that cost component into the entire setup. So that's all from my side. To you, Anup, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very interesting observations that you have made, and something that Salil and Medicine Man, we've been talking about, that there exist several gaps, whether in the patient or in the doctor, information needs or any other need. There are several gaps, and these health tech companies have identified those gaps and they are meeting those gaps. So they need not be seen as a threat, but they can be seen as collaborators with whom actually you need to work and create the ecosystem where the end consumer, whether it's the doctor, patient, chemist, pharmacist, they feel that their needs are understood and they are being met, and you are not just using the field force on a one-way direction of brand reminder, brand reminder, brand reminder. So I think it's a very valid point that you have made. So we don't need to build a moat actually, but we need to probably build a bridge with these health companies and try to understand what is it they have understood about healthcare that pharma companies have not understood, and how we can leverage with them. As you rightly said, Samir, that we have the greatest advantage of field force and they don't have it. So they have something which we don't have, and we have something which they don't have. So I think connecting the two can bring about the right kind of mix that is needed to engage the customers. So Kaustubh, here's the next question to you. Are you seeing improved data analytical capabilities in pharma? Last year, I heard of a company that has 60 million data points from HCP engagement and doesn't know how to use them. Is that a thing of the past, or is there much to cover in that area? I remember that even when we were medical reps, some of us used to play pranks and write a lot of things, irrelevant things in the daily report. We never got a feedback because the daily report was used only to clear the expense statement. They did not see it for any qualitative, because they think that a rep cannot give a qualitative feedback about anything. So, there is data, but we really are not looking at it, and we are not looking at it in a way to gain those insights, which Samir said is very, very important for product managers, brand managers to get customer insights rather than just focusing on activities. So your thoughts, Kaustubh?
So Anup, let's not open some history books. I think a lot of uncomfortable bodies buried out there, but I mean, for all of us. But yes, I think on a more serious note, so I'm a storyteller. So I just thought, that was a very, very interesting point that Samir made on insights, honestly. And I think that is a single word in my vocabulary. If people get the insight right across, you are able to then decode the journey of creating that experience into a delight fantastically well. So, during my Abbott days, and, let me give across a real example out here. So, you spoke about collaboration, Anup. I think, and during my, Abbott days, I think one of the realizations that we had was that we don't know it all. So let's talk about insights to people who are good at it. And I will not get into who we called in, but we called in a very senior leader from DMart. And DMart I mean, right now also it's a behemoth, but it was getting extremely successful day in, day in, day out. And those were the days when the neighborhood grocers were all up in arms, etc. And we asked across DMart, and how is it that you, with all your infrastructure across people, air conditioning, all of it, are able to keep prices lower than that of the neighborhood grocer, who probably has absolutely no such fixed costs across? What is the secret, mantra behind all of that? Besides, bulk buying, is there anything else to it? So he said, he said a very, very interesting story, and which I think I will never forget. He said, bulk buying is just an operational thing which cannot last for you. And bulk buying will only work if there is demand appropriately. But what we have figured out is we have managed to crack a part of a woman's buying DNA. And I said, wow, I think this is $1 million question. I said, I do want to hear more. He said, it's simple. He said, every woman, be it a homemaker or a working woman, always has a belief that she knows the prices of the vegetables. She knows the prices. It is her unflinching belief that I know the prices of vegetables in my neighborhood, period. And that is somewhere a source of pride for her, that she runs the home very well across. And we did across a lot of inciting, a lot of feedback, a lot of surveys, and we realized that it is actually, yes, does she know it? Yes, she does. But what she knows is the prices of 5 vegetables extremely well. Onions, potatoes across are clear things. It could be a cauliflower or a cabbage. Across, it could be one of the green elements out there, and a 5th one depending on the geography. He said, so what we did is, we did a very simple calculation that for these 5, we kept the prices below the neighborhood grocer. And those are the ones that we did a bulk buying on. We get those prices exactly lower than the neighborhood grocer. Now, when the woman comes in, her first attention goes to the prices of these 5 vegetables. And there she sees, wow, it's lower. My God, I just got a winning bargain. The point is, she does not buy 5. She buys 15 or 20 items, and we make our money on the balance, beyond the 5. He says, that's the fundamental. The second corollary, he said, is the same woman is going to meet across another woman on the way back or somewhere, and is going to say, you know what, this place, I just got a great deal out there, and at extremely economical prices, even more than the local neighborhood grocer. Oh, you buy it from there? I just got a better bargain. He says, and we used across these emotions to create across the woman thought she was a winner. We knew we were a winner. He said it was a complete win-win for all. He said but this was all about getting that insight on saying that, okay, which is the one to really target for. Now, coming forward to your question, I think there are a lot of learnings out here that now pharma has. And to your question, have we really matured? I think honestly, there are 3 things I think which companies have probably begun to realize. The first thing is exactly that as pharma companies, our strength is science. Our strength is science. Our strength is science-based marketing. Our strength is knowledge-based collaborations. Our strength is not marketing. Marketing is done by the FMCGs far better than what we do across. But what it also means is we do not need to do it all, and we do not need to know it all, which is where I think a lot of companies today have got into collaborations across, where you can partner with a cross cluster, a data analytics company, to really understand this customer's unmet needs across. You can identify a lot of opportunities. For example, Sanofi's recent partnership means with Ondio. Now, this is a global partnership. But what is it about? It is about creating a diabetes platform where they can bring their vaccines in, they can bring across their drugs in, their devices in, their software in, to create into some kind of a holistic offering. And then this company helped to really not just get data, but to make sense of moving that data to information to insight to action. across. And this is done beautifully by across a lot of players who are really good in that game. So that's the first thing, or for example, Lupin's partnership with I think with Click, which is another amazing company which provide visual analytics across. So I think companies are today begin to get that sense of we do not need to do it all. It's okay. We are not data mining experts. We are good in what we do across, which is bringing research solutions to the market. And the customer insighting is something that while we enable the data to come in, we have experts who will be able to make across better sense of it so that we can engage across our time into more fruitful measures across it. I think the second thing, which I think companies are slowly begin to understand, and here is where honestly, so I've been fortunate, Anup, to have been a part of pharma, to have been a part of consumer healthcare and now medical devices. And I think there's a lot of learning which I think all of the three can give to each other. And I think one of the amazing learnings which I today have in the medical devices industry is on value case, which means what? I think, where, wherever, devices are more, more premium, like, so with a lot of multinationals like us, I think there's amazing pharmacoeconomics that happens out there. And these are all, health economics outcomes research. These are health technology assessments. So HEOR and HTA are extremely well employed out here in medical devices, which really show across that when you use across a particular device, even if it's premium, how does it really reduce the length of stay of that patient in the hospital? Now, how is that beneficial? It is because the hospital earns its most only in the first 3 days that the patient is there. First, the second is in case there is any secondary infection or hospital-acquired infection that happens, the hospital is going to have across even more trouble on its hands. So it's best to get the patient recovered faster and to take it on its way. But the point is, these are not just words. These are quantified. These are quantified using across models, using assumption, taking numbers into account. Now, I would have loved to have a better understanding of this, during my pharma days. And I still think a lot of, pharma marketers can get this, that how is it that your drug can quantifiably make a difference, not just showing across references, clinical trials, etc., but in actually simulating across 2 cases to say that your molecule versus, some other molecule across. If you are saying that, this is making, or this is X% better in terms of efficacy or in safety, then do it using numbers. Do it using across absolute number to quantify to the doctor that at the end of the day, this is how your patient will improve better, will recover better, will have lesser side effects across, and therefore a better outcome of life somewhere. So I think that is the second realization probably that good organizations have started to have. The first being collaboration, the second being being across value cases. And the third, I think, is that companies have also started, and I love the word that you had used before, called romance, Anup. And I think with pharma, it has been a bit like that, because it is like, digital was like this girlfriend that we were trying to impress somewhere, where we were trying to do everything and anything that came across our way. I think Salil also mentioned about doing a plethora of things. We were trying to do everything, right from right from flowers to candlelight dinners to movies to everything. We were just trying to do it all. I think over time, I think good organizations have realized of that what works and what doesn't across. And hence today, I wouldn't say that it is a marriage yet, but we've definitely come to the engagement stage where both, I think, digital as well as pharma are comfortable with each other to know that this is in it for the long term across. So I think the expectations have also come across slightly lower today, that, let us look at digital as a concurrent set across, and the growing realization that digital is a great tool, but unless you have extremely strong domain knowledge, unless your marketing fundamentals are perfect across, digital is not going to serve you across. You are not going to get it right. So make sure that you know your category well, you know your customer extremely well. Through the level of insights. And third is have your marketing fundamentals in place. On page 29, quote, right hand side bottom, if you don't know positioning, what is written out there, then I think any digital that you do is not going to really help you across. So I think there is today a growing level of understanding, I would say, and maturity, digital maturity, which has happened. So three things of where organizations have come. I think one is the collaboration. The second is, I think, value cases, which need to be quantified. And the third being the fact that more realistic, I mean, say expectations of what is important and what is right. Anup, back to you.
Great, great. Thank you. Thank you, Kaustubh. I think you'll have put in a lot of information and insights and experiences you all have shared. It's really been a wonderful interaction. I didn't even feel that the time was flying, which it has flown. So it's been great talking to you, and we will be putting this out for our audience. So thank you very much, Sameer and Kaustubh, for responding in such short time. Thank you, Salil, for putting together such a wonderful panel, and have a great day, all of you. Bye-bye.